From the Clark Ford Studio in Oxford, Mississippi, MBW Digital proudly presents the Oxford Exxon Podcast.
I'd say thanks for tuning in, but why am I going to give you a round of applause for something that you're supposed to do, to be frank?
And now, here are your hosts, Chase Parham.
And broadcast school has really paid off.
And Neal McCready.
I deserve to be on TV.
Welcome to this Wednesday edition of the Oxford Exxon Podcast. Chase Parham, Neal McCready, Clark Ford Studio. This morning, a couple of guests for you. Today, we're going to talk to Tom Murphy, covers the Arkansas Razorbacks for the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. We'll talk some baseball. We'll probably talk some football, and now we'll talk basketball because Mike Anderson on the way out as well. So we've got another SEC coaching change in men's basketball. Good day to get Tom. We did not know that at the time, but maybe we had a premonition or something. I don't know. But anyway, we'll talk to him. Also, you'll hear my very sleep-deprived conversation with Brian Scott Rippee of Supertalk, Mississippi last night. He and I headed to Memphis for the Rebels. The Rebels and the Tigers. And while we were taping this here podcast interview that you will hear, we went in the wrong direction for a little while, so that was fun. Got home a little later than I meant to. We just were chatting away and missed an exit somewhere. So it's all good, but you maybe get something out of it. Frankly, I was really tired. When I look back on it, I was a little scatterbrained, but you'll get about 20 minutes of kind of instant analysis, instant thoughts following Ole Miss's 9-6 win over the Memphis Tigers last night. They scored multiple runs in 3 different innings. Got pretty good bullpen work from 5 different pitchers for the most part. Jordan Fowler kind of roughed up again, gives up 4 runs, 5 hits, and 1.2 innings. They had to use 7.1 innings of bullpen work on a night where they head to Fayetteville in a couple days, so that wasn't the best thing in the world. But we'll get to that with Brian. We'll get to that with Tom here coming up in a bit on the Oxford Exxon Podcast, brought to you every single day by the Oxford Exxon, Highway 6 West in Oxford. You know about the lunch specials. You know about the fact that they are $4.99, 2 sides bread, 32-ounce drink. You can get your stadium cup when Ole Miss gets back to Swayze Field. Keep it in your car. Keep it in your vehicle, maybe your car from Clark Ford, because you can fill it up for 49 cents and get it there, quench your thirst every time with Blue Sky and the Oxford Exxon. Again, coming to you from the Clark Ford Studio.
We are. Clark Ford's in Amory, Mississippi, 662-257-1900. Call the number. Ask for Corey Clark. Tell Corey what new Ford you're looking for. He'll send you a quote within 15 minutes in business hours. It's really that simple. If you're in the market for a vehicle, you think you might be about to be in the market for a vehicle, you're just curious about a vehicle, give him a call. Ask for a quote. It's real simple. What it's going to do at the very minimum is give you a baseline moving forward. What it's probably going to do is pique your interest and get you coming back to Clark Ford on a great Ford vehicle, great service after the sale. Corey wants to be your truck guy, wants to be your car guy. He'll prove it to you. He's proven it to me. He'll prove it to you as well. And at the end of your deal, tell Corey that you heard about Clark Ford on the podcast. You'll save $500 off the already great bottom line. Clark Ford and Amory, 662-257-1900.
Yeah, when you're already kind of tired and you make the realization that you're not just running a little behind schedule, but in the wrong direction and have to backtrack and then make the decision on, okay, which highway do I go to backtrack? Because I had decisions at that point. I had multiple options. I had a lot of things I could have done. Because in my mind, I'm going, okay, I don't want to flip on, like, I know where I am. I had driven up. We were fine. And I thought, I know where I am, so we're all good. But then I didn't want to turn the navigation on for multiple reasons. One being I'm doing the podcast interview, so I don't need the lady talking constantly every time you make a turn. And, yeah, you kind of look up, and I went, this doesn't really look very familiar. I don't know where we are. And I see a sign for 40, and I'm like, oh, that's not good. And I'm thinking, we're headed to Little Rock.
Oh, no.
I think that's what we're doing. We're headed to Little Rock. So my choices then were to run 240 all the way back out to that new road and head to Collierville and then come back that way.
Yeah.
Or go 16 miles to get back to the 55 exit.
What'd y'all do?
Went to Collierville. So I came in through Hacks Cross back to 78 and back that way. So tour of Memphis last night.
It's funny. Carson plays a lot of soccer at Mike Rose out there in Collierville. And I can get there easily using the Collierville exit and 369 or whatever the hell it is.
The new road.
Because Siri doesn't understand it yet.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you say Siri, let's go home. And she always wants to take, because my Siri's a person. She's from England, and we talk a lot. She wants me to take Hacks Cross and just get back out the right way. And so I'll think, no, I can figure this out. And for whatever reason, because you rely so much on navigation, it can get me there, but it won't get me out of there. And so I've now go there on the Collierville way, and I come home on Hacks Cross.
Which makes no sense.
Makes no sense, but it works, and it just works. My excuse each time when like Laura will say, "Why'd you go that way?" Well, there's some restaurants on Hacks Cross, and if he's hungry, I could grab him something.
Hey.
Which is total bullshit. But that's what I say.
Hey, that new road may save some time now. That's a game changer.
Oh, it's a game changer.
Headed to Nashville or somewhere?
Oh, totally.
You're knocking 25, 30 minutes off that thing.
Totally.
Yeah.
Like, I'd feel a whole lot better about life if they'd build a 369 that bypassed and got into Arkansas. I'd feel a lot better about my daughter's drive.
Do something where she doesn't have to get on 40 forever right there toward Little Rock.
Yeah, and just not having to get into all that congestion in Memphis.
Yeah, when you're trying to get across the bridge and the whole deal.
I don't even like thinking about it.
Yeah, I had that problem last night, and then I knew I was fine because it's kind of honor system-wise, but parked in that garage right next to AutoZone, like completely adjacent right there, kind of a little dumpy garage, like a little 3-story deal, and it was packed. There was still like some people that were probably trying to get off at 5 and get out of there, some people for the game coming in, a lot of stuff going on right there. It was the busiest that garage has ever been, and I really didn't know if I could get in that garage what the next other public garage was, because that's the one I just always park in. So
I'm proud of you that you found the garage, you found your vehicle in the garage. That's not always a sure thing with one Anthony Chase Parham.
I may have chosen the wrong garage in Vanderbilt and sent us on a tour of Nashville garages, but my point being,
may have been,
it's one of the ones where you type in the license plate and the little machine, put the card in or whatever, and pay. And I realized once I had done it that I had typed in the wrong license plate number, was 1 digit off. So I spent the whole game wondering, am I gonna have a boot when I get back? Like,
it's a felony.
What? I've got the receipt. I clearly paid for a spot, but what's gonna be the deal? So the whole game, I just had this little thing in the back of my mind that I was sort of struggling with. The answer is
probably nothing.
No, it's fairly an honor system. Because there's no even like gate or anything. It's just pull out, pull in, pull out, have at it. So, I don't know. But anyway, those were kind of my running thoughts along with, do you think that, he knows I'm on the podcast, do you think Memphis media, maybe it's a question for Jeffrey tomorrow, do they get tired of barbecue? Because I feel like every time we go to Memphis for any meal in any sport, they always serve barbecue. Every single time. Is it just because Ole Miss is in town and it's kind of seen as a big game for Memphis? Like, what is it? Like, does the Memphis media get barbecue as their media meal every game?
When I did Memphis Tigers basketball against Ole Miss like a year and a half ago, I don't recall it being barbecue.
But you actually remember what it was? I mean,
no, because I didn't eat it.
That's what I'm saying. It was rendezvous last night.
Yeah.
It's always rendezvous at football games every time we've gone up there. I'm just wondering, is it an Ole Miss thing? Is it a big game thing? Is it every game?
Happy to report that one Caroline Francis McCready is now a licensed driver in the state of Mississippi.
You're happy about this?
I'm happy for her. I'm not particularly happy for me. I'm happy for her.
You have an answer before I move on?
It's probably not always barbecue. It's probably a big game thingy.
Okay. Treating the guests that are in town.
Ole Miss is a big game. Well, let's keep this real. Of all the teams they play, Ole Miss might be the only one that actually brings media.
Oh, see, that's a good point. So it's the one time they go, hey, we probably ought to put some effort into this and kind of whatever.
How many people cover Memphis Tiger baseball?
One.
Okay.
I think.
I mean, you look at their schedule.
There were more of us than them last night.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Had we had an anchor man situation, I felt good about things. Put it that way.
Yeah, I just don't. I mean, like when Cincinnati comes to town, I'm guessing there's not a
UConn baseball in town this weekend.
I'm guessing there's not a big media contingent from stores.
Might just be an AutoZone thing.
It could be.
Might just be an AutoZone thing.
Could be
because Ole Miss doesn't play at FedEx.
Could be a contract they have with the Redbirds and all that.
Who knows?
Yeah.
That park is still in really good shape.
It's a cool
I still
park.
like it.
It's a cool park. You know, it's funny. There was a what's today? Tuesday.
We have
Wednesday?
2 guests. We'll get whatever.
Yeah, we'll get there. So, I think it's Jason Stark does his annual thing. Baseball opens tomorrow. I know that everyone's excited.
It's already opened. It opened in Japan.
Right. It opens in America tomorrow. He did this thing where he surveys all the players and managers and stuff, and they were talking about what expansion cities do people want added. And, like, Nashville was second among players. It was Montreal.
I think so was one, Montreal.
Yeah.
So they want to go to Canada.
Well, I mean, I think it's one of those deals where they know they're going to go to Canada, so you might as well just accept it.
Okay.
Apparently Montreal's a cool city. I've never been to Canada. I don't know. But they say it's great. Like, what do players want? Players want for there to be some clubs, for there to be some restaurants. I mean, like, the players' favorite place to visit was Chicago because of all the restaurants that you can get to quickly. And it has nightlife if you want it.
And they get day games. They get nights off.
Well, that's one of the things, too. They get day games where you can go enjoy the restaurants at 7:30 at night and still get in the bed in time to get sleep to play the next day game or to chase 20-year-old girls back to your hotel till 4 in the morning.
It seems like a negative for the baseball aspect of it, but hey.
I think it's been a concern in Chicago at times.
Is it really?
Yes, for sure.
Oh, yeah, you've talked about how day games was probably a detriment for the team.
Yeah, and it's not the playing in the daytime. It's the 24-year-old, single, fairly wealthy. I mean, he's got money in his pocket. Guy whose workday is done at 5:30. Now, he's got to get up the next day and go to work, but
got a few hours.
Telling him to, hey, go get you a nice balanced meal, get off your feet, get some rest, when he knows that there are conquests to be had, that's probably difficult.
Well, I mean, Don Kessinger, though, told us, we talked to him about it several times, mentioned that, just the grind of the day and the heat, just the differing schedules from everyone else was a toll on some of those teams.
I can't remember who it was. It was a Phillies-Cubs series. It was a 4-game series. I kind of remember it now. They played a night game, a 1:20 game, a 3:05 game, and then a 1:20 game. And Jimmy Rollins was standing at second base on the last day of the series, and he looked at whoever the Cubs shortstop was at the time. I guess it was whoever it was before Addison Russell, and said, I don't know how the hell you guys do this. You're wearing me out.
These day games.
Because baseball players are creatures of habit, like most people, but baseball players are really creatures of habit. Game starts at 7:05, so you get to the park at 2:30, and you goof around in the clubhouse for 20 minutes, then you go get your hitting in, and then you get something to eat, and then you
just kind of hang out.
Go do some stretching, and then you hang out, and then you go do some little quick cardio, and then you kind of hang out, and then you go play. And that's what they're used to. And you screw that up, and different deal.
Yeah. So, also football on the site today. We kind of buried that along with some of our musings. But football on the site.
Yeah.
The Matt Luke video is up on the message board. Archie Breland's football notebook is up on the site as well.
And I put Matt Luke's video on top of Archie's notebook, too.
So you can make one click and get it all.
Yeah, if you want to find it on the message board, you can. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'd love that. Or if you want to click it in Archie's notebook, you can do that, too.
You can. You can also, get some recruiting here soon. We'll have some chicks up and whatnot.
Yep.
So a little bit of everything today coming up.
I'm taping at least one soft verbal, talking to Rob Cassidy this morning. Think I'm talking to Corey Evans, basketball recruiting. So maybe 2 soft verbals. I don't want to overpromise. But we're working on it. A lot to talk about around basketball these days because there's a lot of dudes getting fired and jobs open. LSU's open. LSU's going to be open. Alabama's open. A&M's open. Arkansas is open, and Vanderbilt is open.
Oh, yeah. So it's really 5 counting Wade.
Yeah.
Hey, he's not fired yet, but
I'm betting against him. If you'd like to bet for him, we can.
You think you and I will coach as many LSU games moving forward as one William Wade?
That's my guess. I mean, if I'll put the over/under at 1/2, and I'll go under. If you would like to go over, I'll take the wager.
All right, so who's everybody looking at? We know that Sampson's been rumored a little bit in a couple of different places. Got
See, I'm a little bit of a conspiracist here. I have to believe that the AD at Houston at Arkansas, who used to be the AD at Houston, I have to believe that he got through back channels an affirmative answer from Kelvin Sampson that when our being the Houston Cougars run is over, I'll take your job.
You're being cute that he even went through back channels. Might have gone through a really forward channel.
Might have just talked to Kelvin himself.
Hey, bud, what are you thinking?
Certainly possible that he talked to Kelvin's representation.
Yeah.
Because Mike Anderson, it was a subpar job this year, but it wasn't a disaster.
It just felt stale. It felt negative momentum overall for the program. And frankly, there's actually some Ole Miss baseball parallels in a weird way with this job, because there's also some expectations there that are maybe realistic, maybe crazy. I don't know, because months ago I did that show out of Fort Smith, and you and I have talked about it that morning. I said, their season's not going really well, but they're pissed. They're like really pissed.
Yeah.
And they said, hey, well, they thought I was a basketball expert, so I kind of sat back in my chair and I was like, I'm gonna BS this next 12 minutes. Here we go. And he's like, what do you think about the Arkansas job? And I'm like, well, I can't name anybody on the team, Daniel Gafford, but sure, let me have at it. And I start talking through it though, and it's, well, look, you guys aren't 94-95 because they were fans. You guys aren't 94-95, but you should be better than this. You should definitely be more consistent than you are right now. So. Yeah, I think I used the word stale, and all of a sudden they're like, hey, come back next Tuesday. Let's do this again. Let's have
Well, because when you think about it, and I was just up there not that long ago, look, is Bud Walton the preeminent basketball arena in college basketball anymore? No, it's not. But it's nice. I mean, I can name arenas worse. I can name a long list in the SEC worse than Bud Walton. There is tradition there. Now, is it 20 years ago? Yeah. I mean, Scotty Thurman's a grandfather now. He's got a daughter who's one of his youngest is a high school star in the Fayetteville area.
Oh, really?
So my point is, but and this bears, you can do it there. It's been done. If it's ever been done, you can do it again. Doesn't mean it's going to be automatic. Nebraska football, hello, but you can. They do get the day we were there. They were honoring the Nolan Richardson, Scotty Thurman, Corliss Williamson team, and that brought some people out. But an average team, and it was pretty full, and it was loud. And when they got into it in the second half, it was a good environment. I've been in that arena before, not so long ago, when it was rocking. You can recruit players there.
You've got to dominate the state of Arkansas, take advantage of a couple of those AAU teams that are pretty good in that state, and then you got to get into Texas.
Got to get into Texas, and you've got.
And frankly, everybody's got to be national programs now. In the SEC, everybody's somewhat regional or national or whatever. It just sort of is what it is. I mean, you look at what Ole Miss is doing right now. It's this JUCO, Psy from wherever, and you got kids in Huntington Prep, and you got kids all over. I mean, everybody's got their feeder schools and their pipelines, and you got to get the local kids when you have that opportunity, but. For the most part, it's just go get wherever the dudes are. I mean, you're like, this goes across all sports. It goes back to yesterday's thing. You're on national television every game. You're a household name on ESPN every week because they pay you to be.
Oh, hell, I'll say it. In the last 2 years, out of 28 SEC teams, 15 have made the NCAA tournament. It's fast becoming. Yeah. It's fast becoming one of the 2 to 3.
Who are the only programs that haven't made it in the last 2 years, like individually?
Oh,
because it's most.
Well,
Carolina.
I guess let's go through it. Carolina's.
They haven't.
They haven't made it the last 2 years.
No.
Let's start in the West because that's how I do things.
A&M's made it.
A&M's made it.
LSU's made it. Ole Miss has made it. State's made it.
Arkansas
Alabama's made it.
Alabama.
Arkansas's made it.
Yeah,
7.
everybody.
Yeah.
In the East, South Carolina hasn't. Florida has. Tennessee has. Kentucky has. Vanderbilt. Year before last, did they get in?
I thought it might have been 2 years ago. I'll check it. I don't know.
Missouri got in with Jonte.
Yeah. Is it really 13 or 14?
I mean, dude, it's a lot.
No, come on. Is it really?
I mean, we're sitting here doing it. Georgia didn't make it. Georgia hadn't been.
Yeah. That's right. I'm checking the NCAA.
So 11 to 12 of the 14 have been in the tournament in the last 2 years.
Hey.
It's a bitch of a league. But you get tons of exposure. You're on national television all the freaking time. The arenas are starting to get full. Kids go to the NBA.
2018, Tennessee, Kentucky, A&M, Missouri,
Alabama, Arkansas,
Florida,
and Auburn.
Yeah. So Vanderbilt's a no.
Okay. So Vanderbilt
11 of 14.
11 of the 14 have been in, and one of those other 3 is not that far removed from making the Final Four.
Yeah. And Vanderbilt made it the year before.
Yeah,
if you want to go back one more
year. It's a really
year.
good league. It's in many ways it's become a better basketball league than it is a football league.
Yeah. Let's continue that conversation with Tom Murphy in 1 second. Before we do that, I'll tell you about Blow Dry Bar Oxford, 662-638-3310, voted Best New Business of 2018 here in Oxford, 10 to 6, Tuesday to Friday, Saturday 10 to 3. Go in if you're a guy looking for that special something for the special someone in your life. You can get them a gift card to Blow Dry Bar Oxford. You mention RevelGrove.com. You get a discount when you do that. You also can purchase the ever popular blowout and much more. Maybe you want to get a cut while you're in there. Men's haircuts now available at Blow Dry Bar Oxford. They'll knock $5 off when you mention Rebel Grove for those as well. So maybe kill a couple of different birds with one stone. Head on over. Take care of multiple things for you. 662-638-3310.
This here podcast also brought to you by the Oxford University Bank, OUB, locally owned and operated right here in Oxford. When you deposit money at OUB, that money and the vast majority of the bank's profits go right back into the Oxford community. OUB gives you the comfort of home, all the benefits the big mega banks provide, all the technology and products you can want, all with the personal touch. And when you call OUB, you speak directly with a live person. There's no 10 buttons to push. There's no 5-minute wait to endure. OUB also offers its customers the absolute best cash checking account. It's called Kasasa, and with Kasasa, OUB will pay customers 2.5% interest on their balances up to $50,000. And with Kasasa, ATM fees nationwide are refunded. OUB also offers online bill pay and mobile check deposit using its online app. To learn more about OUB, check out liveoxfordbankoxford.com or call 662-234-6668. OUB is FDIC insured. We're also brought to you by Grenada Nissan. If you're in the market for a Nissan vehicle, Grenada Nissan's the place to go. They've got a complete selection of new and previously owned Nissan vehicles, great lease deals as well. Get in touch with Gene and Sandy there at Grenada Nissan, and they'll take care of you. Tell them you heard about it on the Oxford Exxon Podcast or at rebelgrove.com, and you'll get Rebel savings on top of the already great deals at Grenada Nissan. It's GrenadaNissanUSA.com. And we're brought to you by Harry Alexander. Harry is a big part of Savannah Square. It's a new 9-acre development, 0.7 of a mile from the Oxford downtown square. It's conveniently located just east of North Lamar, just a short stroll from the Midtown Shopping Center and some of the other restaurants around there like Volta and Handy Andy and the Oxford Canteen. Savannah Square will initially consist of 32 standalone detached structures ranging in size from about 1,100 square feet to 2,400 square feet. The model home is available for your inspection at 215 William Street. These homes have wonderful layouts, impeccable finishes. You can inspect them at the model. I've seen them. You should check them out. They're really cool. Give Harry a call. Look at the model. Get more information about this great new development while properties are still available. You can view more at SavannahSquareOxford.com or give Harry Alexander with RE/MAX Legacy Realty a call or text at 662-801-5621.
Podcast is brought to you by Mastercuts Lawn and Landscape, 662-607-7773. Basic maintenance. Sign that contract now to let them take care of your mowing, your weed eating, your edging, all the things that maybe you don't want to do during 2019. You don't have to. Let MasterCuts handle that. And while they're there, they do other things too, including flower beds. They can plant things for you. They can build things, custom playgrounds, fences, decks, stain them for you, whatever you want. They can help you out. You also get the free quote by emailing them info@gomastercuts.com. That's mastercutslawn.com, and that's 662-607-7773. Now Tom Murphy on the Patterson-Earhart Hotline.
Tom Murphy joins us now on the podcast. Tom, appreciate you taking some time on what I know is probably a busier Wednesday than you thought it would be when you woke up on Monday, for example.
Yeah, that is true, man, but it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
So Mike Anderson let go yesterday at Arkansas. I think he'd been there 8 seasons. They didn't live up to expectations this year, but they weren't awful or anything. How surprised are you that you get up today and Mike Anderson's no longer the head coach at Arkansas?
Well, it kind of cuts 2 ways on that. One, it was somewhat of a disappointing season, and the overall track record isn't what some thought it would be or should be, and just not enough success in the NCAA tournament. Attendance was declining, but there was a general thought around that because the Nolan Richardson court resolution, which is going to be voted on today in Hot Springs by the Board of Trustees, expected to be approved, between that and the fact that they accepted an NIT bid and won a game and went and played in it, you kind of felt like, okay, well, maybe this means €100 check and the administration is going to roll another year with Mike Anderson. But I just think that the upper brass felt like there wasn't a solid enough plan in place to get things rolling in the right direction, and that if you go next year, that maybe you're looking at the same kind of thing with Mike. And I think ultimately, when you brand yourself as the fastest 40 minutes, but you don't quite have the depth to get that done, then you're kind of not achieving what you brand yourself. And I think that was another thing that played into this.
So there's been a lot of speculation. I started hearing it, I don't know, late February. I think you and I might have even touched on it when I was up in Fayetteville. I know you had to leave that day to go to baseball, so we didn't get to visit for very long. But I started hearing this Kelvin Sampson to Arkansas stuff in February. There's speculation out there today that, hey, Arkansas probably doesn't make this move unless they have at least a pretty good vibe from Kelvin Sampson and his camp. How much stock do you put into that?
I put some stock into it because, Kelvin Sampson's name has been going around for a while, and, of course, it makes total sense in that €100 check was at Houston and saw what Kelvin Sampson is about up close and personal. So I'm not saying that it's a slam dunk thing. And by the way, I do not know details of buyouts for him or anyone else who could be involved with this search yet. But the fact that he has resurrected Houston basketball and they're still alive in the Sweet 16 and they play a fun brand. And I watched some of their last game, and the way they attacked the boards was impressive, and it kind of was a stark contrast to what you see with Arkansas. And I know that rebounding differential isn't the end-all, be-all for a Mike Anderson team because of the way they play. But this year was probably about the worst that they've had. And being a more aggressive, instinctive rebounding team's got to be up there in kind of the pursuit of this next coach.
Kind of interested to get your thoughts on this because the Arkansas job at one point was considered an elite job. I don't know that it is anymore, but it's still a place that has great facilities. There's a lot of fan interest. There's a lot of money around that area. There's reasons to be optimistic. You covered Alabama for a while. You've been kind of all over the Southeast. There's 5 open jobs right now. I mean, there's a lot kind of factoring in. When you look at the Arkansas job objectively, obviously it's not Kentucky, but where does it rank in the SEC today, in your opinion?
Well, because of a tradition that is now 25 years old, the winning of the national championship and going back to the final game the next year, the kids today, have to be shown video clips of that and told about that. They don't remember it. So there's been a drop-off, and attendance has reflected that some. But you're right. There's money here. They have a really nice practice facility. The arena's in good shape, and, people care about basketball, and that means something too. But you're right. It does clearly rank below Kentucky and some others. Texas A&M is intriguing to me because Billy Kennedy went to 2 Sweet 16s. That wasn't enough to get the job done, and apparently they got a bunch of money that they're ready to spend. I think Arkansas is ready to spend a bunch of money too. But, Buzz Williams is a name you hear at A&M. Don't know if that's true, but his team is still alive at Virginia Tech as well. So they're in competition with those two, and who knows what's going to happen at LSU. I heard an interesting thing today that since 2014, every team in the conference had changed coaches except for Kentucky and South Carolina, which is just fascinating that the turnover has been so great. And now Arkansas is in those ranks, and I think they can attract a candidate who the fans will believe in that can lead them back to basketball prosperity.
Let's switch gears to baseball a little bit. I'll turn it over to Chase in a second, but I'll start here because I'm kind of fascinated with the psychology of it. When I think Arkansas baseball today, and this is completely unfair, and I acknowledge that, the first thing that comes to mind is the foul ball that lands that would have won the national championship. How much residual, just almost like Steve Bartman-esque sort of damage can you still sort of feel around that program, if any?
Well, there is some, and I think it spreads across the sports because there's a stat out there, and I can't tell you the exact number right now, but Arkansas in conference championship games in the last 20-something years is just a really bad record. Or championship games overall. So that would have included the final of the College World Series. So the fans have kind of gotten conditioned that, something's going to go wrong. And, of course, it doesn't get any more painful than what happened with that drop pop-up. But I will say this about them. They caught some bad luck. The rain out on the first day allowed Oregon State, whose pitching staff had been used a lot more and was a lot more tired than the Razorbacks at that point. I think they had played 2 more games. Really benefited the Beavers. And I do think that if they'd been able to play on Monday, you expect a good performance from Blaine Knight. You go up 1-0. Then Oregon State's bullpen isn't as ready for game 2. And they got a really good performance in long relief from a left-hander who saved the rest of the bullpen. And then, of course, Kevin Abel didn't need any help in the final game. But I just contend that I think they probably would have won the national championship without that rain-out day. But they had so much turnover on the team. There's only like 3 principal hitters back and baseball is such a day after day grind that I don't think it lingers in the players' minds or heads at all. But for Dave Van Horn, really tough pill to swallow that you get that close. And it wasn't a routine play by any means. It was a tough play, but I will always contend that Eric Cole should have called off the infielders and come in and made that catch.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I mean, Dave Van Horn, just every night, I don't know how he goes to sleep. I mean, I would be struggling to this day still just to even figure out, hey, in my mind, how do I stop replaying that over and over and over again? Because we've talked about it here. I mean, for 2.5 seconds, the whole team knows they've won a national title.
Well, the ball was in the air for a long time. The Caden Grenier pop-up we're referencing here, and it was just in a bad triangle with high sky and the intensity of the size of the park. And I can't remember what the wind was like. I think there was some wind involved in the whole thing too, because Carson Shaddy overran it by about 3 feet and it fell behind him. But he didn't have the right angle. I mean, Jared Gates had a better angle going straight back on it, the first baseman. And certainly Eric Cole had should have been the guy who took charge, but a personality thing came up. Carson Shaddy's a take-charge, aggressive guy, probably wanted to make the last out of the World Series. And Eric Cole is a more laid-back guy, and if his second baseman is shouting, who knows if they really heard it, he was going to give way. And in that case, the right fielder should have come in and taken charge and caught the ball.
Ole Miss and Arkansas have kind of mirrored each other from a schedule standpoint. They played Missouri and Alabama both. They played them in opposite order, obviously. But Arkansas kind of did what I thought Ole Miss had to do. I went through this thing with Ole Miss and thought, okay, really need to be at least 4-2, maybe 5-1, because you're playing two of the least talented teams in the SEC in Alabama and Missouri. And Arkansas did that. Missouri can pitch it a little bit, but Arkansas found a way to win all three of those. They take two from Alabama. What's sort of the feel around there? They've got off to a really hot start, but overall a little better start than maybe anticipated because of some of the turnover.
I think yes. I think a better start than anticipated, but to me there's still so many red flags that they have to get worked out to say they're going to be a postseason power team. Okay. Way too many red flags, and we can go through them as we chat here. But they hit less than 200 in the Missouri series, and of course Missouri hit around 130 or something in that series. It was three pretty much pitchers duels, and Arkansas just managed to get a few more runs and clutch hits. But you're right. I think 5-1. It's the two teams that could finish it near the bottom of their divisions. Although Kentucky's been a little bit of surprise at how poorly they've played. But when you start off with the lower teams picked in each division, you do want to get out to a hot start. I think that Cody Scroggins on Sunday has been a nice surprise. The fact that he's been able to give them around 5 innings has been big, and he's a big strikeout guy. He goes up to the mid-90s, even over 95 on the fastball. Isaiah Campbell on Fridays has been gold, and he's a guy who, he was projected to be in the rotation a couple years ago and got hurt, and then last year he wound up being the third guy, and he would have outings like at Florida where he just gets bashed and has to come out in the second inning, and just up and down. He had a losing record last year, but right toward the end of the season, he gave him a great start against Dallas Baptist in the regional, what wound up being the final. I can't remember if he got the win or not, but good start there. And then he beat South Carolina in a winner-take-all game 3 in the Super Regional. So that was an eye-opener. And when he's on top of his game, when he throws his fastball overhand, he's a 90-degree fastball guy, or excuse me, a 180 fastball guy. He's pretty good. And then in the World Series, he beat Brady Singer in Florida, head up. So he came into this year with confidence. He was the main guy, and he's proven that. He's 5-0. I think he's got his ERA under 2. And for the last 3 games, he's been really solid.
Yeah, what I was going to ask you about is kind of the other one, Connor Nolan there in the middle of this rotation, at least as of I'm seeing from the stats on Saturdays. It's a weird stat because he hasn't been awful, but he hasn't been overly good either, and I think he has started every weekend game that Arkansas has lost this season.
Yeah, the Saturday games haven't gone as well, but he's provided some good starts. And I know he got pulled after 4 2/3 against Missouri, and they had a lead. I don't remember what the lead was, but it was like 2-0, maybe 3-0 with a couple of runners on. And you're like, oh, one more out. And, he could get his first win because he didn't have any decisions at that point. But he's a low 90s fastball guy. He's a pretty good control guy. But the Alabama game, they got some guys on base against him, and it was a bad hop single. A guy hit a home run, and then they had some runners on, and somebody hit a ball to third base, and it hit right at the cut of the grass in the dirt and hopped over his shoulder, and that made it 3-0, and that was it. 1 2/3 innings, and he was out. And so there's speculation that the left-hander Patrick Wicklander, a freshman who's been their midweek guy and who's been pretty tough, who started last night at Missouri State, might get a shot at the rotation. Nolan pitched last night. Wicklander struck out 5 in 2 perfect innings, and then Nolan came on and pitched 1 inning. So one of those two will start Saturday against Ole Miss. And I think I talked to Dave about it the day before the Missouri State game, and he felt like they would still stick with Nolan. But the fact that Wicklander has done well in midweek certainly would have Nolan, thinking he's going to have to start delivering a little bit more to stay in the rotation on the weekend.
Whether it be bullpen or whatever, how many left-handed arms is Arkansas going to throw out at Ole Miss? Because right now the Rebels, last season they hit left-handers over 300 for the year, and they've got 7 of 9 offensive guys back. However, there's about a 100-point batting average differential right now in right to left. I think they're hitting left-handers at only about a 235 clip. So what's Arkansas throwing out there from that side of the field?
Well, Dave hasn't announced it yet, but when he sees those stats, of which he'll be very aware, I'm sure he'll give consideration to starting Patrick Wicklander on Saturday. However, in the bullpen, there's a few guys. A lot of them are younger arms. I'm going to have to get out their roster here to tell you, but Wicklander is a starter. He's not done well in relief. Against Alabama, in the game they lost 10-0, he came in behind Connor Nolan and then Cole Ramage and walked 3 guys. He faced 3, he walked 3 on 16 pitches, and all 3 scored. So that was an ERA crusher. And there's a couple of other left-handed arms in the bullpen. I'm thinking of Matt Cronin, obviously, the closer.
Right.
We got a kid named Evan Taylor. Just a little bit up and down from what the left-handers have done out of the pen. So I would imagine at max probably 5, 6, maybe 7 innings from left-handers in the series, unless Wicklander gets to start on Saturday and does well and goes 5 or 6 innings.
The most important thing for us media, why in the world is this game starting at 8 p.m. on Friday night?
Well, of course.
I know it's TV. I know it's TV, but I haven't seen one of those before. That's the first 8 I've seen.
Yeah, it's depressing because it makes it really tough to write a good game story on that deadline. But that's what they wanted. I mean, I heard somebody calling into a regional radio show yesterday just really talking like the 11 o'clock football games in August and September, brutal heat sometimes, but it's done for TV. And, they take the money from the TV and they play the games when they say.
You mentioned 11 o'clock games. I'd give it at least a coin toss chance that it's going to be an 11 o'clock game when Arkansas comes here. I think it's Labor Day weekend. I'm not positive on that. It might be the weekend after that. I don't know. The last few years, that game's been sort of a toss-up. It was a toss-up again last year. It's year 2 for Chad Morris. What do you sort of expect from the Hogs?
I expect them to be a little bit better. I think they'll have some more dynamic playmakers. But here's the thing. So they come in with a 23rd ranked recruiting class, but in the SEC it was 9th or 10th. In the SEC West it was probably 6th maybe. I don't know. So the overall talent level should be a little bit better. But did you improve as much as your biggest rivals in your own division? I don't know. I saw them yesterday. It was the first time they've had a full open practice to the media all spring, and you just see areas where they've got to get better. I mean, their defense right now is ahead of their offense, clearly. The O-line had trouble stopping the pass rush yesterday, and I know Chad said they did a bunch of scripted things like that put pressure on the quarterback, and there was a lot of blitzing, but the defensive front won the day yesterday, and that's kind of been the case through the spring. Finding consistency on offense, getting the ball to your playmakers for them is going to be the biggest deal. They're down a little bit with some injuries to skill guys like Rakeem Boyd, the top tailback, got hurt in the Ole Miss game. Dev Wall-Whaley's missed a few days recently, got hurt in the Ole Miss game. Some of their receivers aren't full speed. Mike Woods got hurt, so he won't do the rest of spring. Did not get hurt in the Ole Miss game. But I think they'll be a little bit better defensively. I think they'll convert more third downs. They'll be a better first down team next year. But when these swing games, you got to have playmakers that come through at the crunch times. They didn't have that last year, and I think they're going to win their 4 non-conference games. So if they can find a way to somehow win 2 conference games, they could get to a bowl, which would be a huge achievement. I think 5 wins probably should be about the over/under, and that Ole Miss game, it will be the primary conference game of that day. So it might get better than 11 o'clock, Neil.
It could, Tom. We got a lot of 11 o'clock last year. People were worked up about it. So Yeah.
Let me tell you, we did a long-running series of 11 o'clock games covering the Razorbacks, to the point that I think, Hunter Yurchek and the officials here talked to the league, and they finally got a night game. I can't remember which one it was, but
LSU was at night.
It was hurting attendance.
Yeah, LSU was at night up there because Campbell came up for that game, and it was like 10 degrees.
Yeah, it was hard for them to catch a break last year. Even the games that they had a chance in, the Ole Miss, LSU game, the A&M game, which were both 24-17, and the Ole Miss, which you guys know was kind of a back and forth thing, and Ole Miss shut them down in the fourth quarter. They just couldn't find a way. And Ty Story gets a concussion in that game, and the two running backs go down, and they didn't have a whole lot of firepower going in the fourth quarter there.
I've kept you longer than I said I would. Last thing, what's their quarterback situation look like?
Well, I think it's Ben Hicks's job to lose. He's so familiar with the offense. He carries himself as a guy who's, a leader of a team. And we've talked to him, I want to say 3 times this spring, and they've tried to kind of cycle different guys through. We talked to 5 or 6 players a week, basically. And we got him yesterday for the 3rd time. He's a well-spoken guy. He's got the best arm on the team. And with Connor Nolan at football, it's hard to think that Nolan will, go through spring and fall camp and overtake him simply because Ben Hicks is getting to work with the receivers. He's getting after it. I mean, he's a nice kid, and he's a decent athlete. And I just don't see anyone beating him out. Now, Nick Starkel will be here over the summer too, so throw his name into the mix.
I really appreciate the time. I know you're busy. Thanks so much for spending a little extra with us, and I hope to visit with you soon.
You betcha. Thanks, guys. See you.
Thanks to Tom for joining us right there. Really good stuff about the Razorbacks. Again, Ole Miss and Arkansas in Fayetteville this weekend. An 8 o'clock start on Friday night on ESPNU National TV for that one. And then 3 o'clock on Saturday, 1:30 on Sunday, your other time. So Ole Miss with 4 nationally televised games in a row for the Rebels and the Razorbacks this weekend. We will go to Brian Rippee and myself in a second. Again, I don't know what we said. We were both really, really tired. We were driving in the wrong direction. There was all sorts of stuff going on. But you can hear those ramblings right after I tell you about Scripted Jewelry, scriptedjewelry.com. Go to the website, see everything they can offer for you to perfectly personalize your custom gift with Scripted Jewelry. They've got great turnaround times. They make it easy for you and get it to you when you need it. They'll show you about new arrivals, several of those there, rings, key fobs, all sorts of different items. The recent work they have done, the front and back of the recent work they've done, things to get ahead for Mother's Day, maybe if you want to really jump ahead a little bit. Scripted Jewelry can help you out, and they'll save money in the process. Rebels10, REBELS10 for 10% off with scriptedjewelry.com.
Would make a cool Mother's Day gift.
Would. That's
especially for a mom with little kids. Get the little kid to try to write something.
You put the handwriting in the item for that one.
Yeah, that would. It's a pretty good idea. Podcast. Let's see. Tom Murphy, Brian Scott Rippee, other guests join us on the Patterson and Earhart hotline. Patterson and Earhart are attorneys at law who specialize in personal injury law and real estate law. But look, really what they do is they have a general practice, and they can accommodate just about any of your legal needs. And if you're one of those people that's out there and you think you might have a legal issue, you think you might have something you need to pursue, something you need to discuss, and you're looking for an attorney who will give you some kind of a straight scoop about whether or not you have a case, whether it's a case worth pursuing, give John Calvin Patterson and Wes Earhart a call. That initial consultation's free. They're going to talk to you. They're not going to put some assistant on you. You're going to call them, and they're going to talk to you within the same day, guaranteed. 662-526-1992. Check out their website, pelaws.com. Your initial consultation is free. This podcast also brought to you by Pinnacle Trust based in Madison, Mississippi, but they represent clients in 25 states. They've got advisors all over the place. They have detailed, specialized investment management, financial planning, retirement planning for individuals and businesses, and so much more. What they do is they treat investing like a commodity. Decisions are made using objective information and research and not emotions. So regardless of your level of wealth, Pinnacle Trust will sit down with you, listen to your goals, study your expenses, put forth a comprehensive, detailed financial and retirement plan. Cookie-cutter financial planners put you in a box. Pinnacle Trust builds a box just for you. To learn more about Pinnacle Trust, go to pintrust.com. That's PINN trust.com. Mention you heard about Pinnacle Trust on the podcast. You get 10% off your first year's fee.
Podcast also brought to you by G&M Pharmacy there on South Lamar in Oxford. They deliver local to your home or workplace in the Oxford area, and they'll transfer your medications easy. You just give them a call at 662-236-2222. Been telling you about them now offering CBD oil. I might need anything today. Give me whatever you got. It is offered in multiple different forms, including sublingual oil, soft gel capsules, or topical salves. CBD is an all-natural product, helps maintain overall health, and helps regulate many conditions such as depression, anxiety, pain, insomnia, and more. It's FDA approved. It is legal in all 50 states. You're not going to get any side effects or anything like that. It can just help you out a little bit. So 662-236-2222. Now let's go to myself and Brian Scott Rippee back on the Patterson and Earhart hotline. Here with Brian Rippee somewhere in Mississippi, trying to get back to Oxford tonight. Ole Miss 9, Memphis 6, leaving AutoZone Park. In a game where Ole Miss scores multiple runs in 3 different innings, they get pretty good bullpen work. They don't get much out of Jordan Fowler. Just kind of curious, Brad, we'll start here. What do you sort of take from tonight, big picture-wise? Anything at all on a Tuesday in Memphis?
To me, the 2 things that stuck out were who the guys were that had good nights at the plate, right? I mean, it's Thomas Dillard, who entered the night 5 of 23 since SEC play started, and 2 of those hits are against Pine Bluff, and then Chase Cockrell, obviously, struggles have been well documented all year long. So for, Dillard to have a second consecutive multi-hit game and Cockrell to go 3 for 5 and kind of have the big hit in the 9th that gave Caracci some breathing room, I think that's important for them to kind of be more consistent throughout the lineup going forward as they get deeper into SEC play.
Yeah, they've got nothing out of Chase Cockrell all season for the most part. I mean, I don't think that's just being realistic about this. He came into the game striking out in 44% of his at-bats this season. He hadn't hit a home run. He'd walked some, but, I mean, Mike wasn't even using him in the lineup that much coming in the last couple weeks or so. He gets the start. Today, he has the 2 doubles and really the 1 in the 9th inning. I thought maybe more than anything the 9th inning was so important for Ole Miss because they go into that frame of 7-6, and they kind of had a lag there for several innings since they had a big inning earlier in the game, and that's kind of been what's plagued them is they haven't been able to put innings together, kind of keep their foot on the gas, if you will. They lost the game to Alabama because they had a 5-run inning, and then they only scored one earned run the rest of the game. They lose a couple games to Missouri where they just don't score after certain points in the game. So they come in there in the 9th. They get pretty good at-bats out of Thomas Dillard, Ryan Olenek, and then it ends up getting cleaned up by Chase Cockrell. He gets the 2 strikes. He gets thrown an off-speed pitch. It's not a breaking ball, but it is a changeup. He stays down on it. He drives it down the left field line. That was the hit to kind of ice it. And for Cockrell, it's a little bit of confidence because so much of swinging at breaking balls and so much of not being able to kind of wait on your pitch and into chasing things that the scouting report says you're going to chase and not be able to adjust, to me that comes from pressing because you can't wait on anything. You're so overeager, and he has to be able to at least recognize it. I mean, you know what I mean? He's been a college hitter for a while. He had points last season where he was really, really hot and kind of one of those guys that carried the team. So I do wonder, it's a small sample size. It's just a Tuesday. It's against a team that's like 11-12 overall now. But I did think that final at-bat might have been just a little bit of a glimmer because if you can get something out of Cockrell, it does sort of transform a little bit of the bottom of that lineup.
Yeah, you nailed it. The biggest thing you take away from that is confidence because it is one night against a team. It's 11-12, but if he put 3 or 4 good at-bats together tonight. And if he's kind of feeling confident, he maybe stops pressing a little bit. And to your point, they're a better team and a better lineup with a productive Chase Cockrell in it. And if you have guys like him and Dillard hitting more consistently, you talk about the lineup kind of having holes in it and having one big inning and then it going for lulls, that will kind of go a long way in appeasing that.
They won a game tonight probably on defense as much as anything else, which is a crazy thing to say considering they used 6 different pitchers. Ole Miss had 10 hits. Memphis had a season-high 15 hits. Not a good number for the Rebels there as far as what Memphis was able to do. But you look at it, they're in the third inning, I think. Memphis had the bases loaded. They had one out. They was tied 4-4 at the time. Looked like they were about to take the lead. Anthony Servideo leaps up in the air, snags a line drive, turns into a double play. Probably a play that he and very few other people would make, frankly. So they had the right guy at second base at the right time. He makes the play, gets them out of the inning, keeps the momentum where Memphis takes at least a 6-4 lead there. Could be even 7-4, depending on if that thing scoots through the gap or not past Olenek. And that really changed the outcome of the game. You've got Thomas Stewart playing pretty good behind the plate from at least a defensive standpoint. He, I know he had a couple balls kind of squirt past him, but he makes a really good play on a ball in the infield, throws out a runner to key time. And then Mike makes a good managerial move. Instead of giving Cooper Johnson the night off, he brings him in the 8th inning. And Austin Miller spikes a couple pitches in a row after a triple brought it to a 1-run game. It was 7-6 again at the time there in the bottom of the 8th. And Miller throws a couple balls in the dirt. Johnson blocks those balls up. Dillard may have 2, but it was just kind of noticeable with Cooper already back there. So I thought that after so much about, hey, they're not real crisp early in the game defensively. They're having so many defensive miscues. They played not only a solid game, but frankly a pretty exemplary game defensively to pull this one out, because it was certainly questionable for a good bit of tonight's game. Yeah, and then you had the play with Tyler Myers where he strands the leadoff triple, that the play that Elko got injured on in large part due to that play. I believe it came with 1 out, where Keenan makes a nice snag moving to his left, makes a tough throw on the move, kind of across his body a little bit, and Zabowski makes a really nice stab in the dirt. And so plays like that really did help them win the game. And to your point, Mike makes a good managerial move late, giving Cooper Johnson, or inserting Cooper Johnson in the game after, trying to give him the day off. But it made a difference because the tying runs on third base, and like you said, Miller spikes a couple balls in the dirt. And Dillard may have gotten to those balls, but having a sure-handed backstop back there definitely, I think, made a difference. They used 6 different pitchers today as we kind of get into that portion of this thing. Jordan Fowler had some swing and miss stuff. I think he strikes out 4 over 1.2 innings. The breaking ball and the fastball were both swung and missed on some. But he's still a guy that just cannot consistently locate. The ball's getting up in the air. The ball is out over the middle of the plate too much, and Memphis just really got after him. They end up scoring 4 runs there in the second inning. They do it off 5 hits. They get 2 doubles. I mean, it's the same thing that has plagued him. And Ole Miss left him in, let him throw 7+ innings against Arkansas Pine Bluff last week to kind of get some command, to throw some strikes, to maybe gain some confidence. But the problem isn't necessarily strikes. It's the fact that he's throwing the ball too much over the plate. He's not being fine at all. The ball's over the middle, and at this point, you hate to say this because he's a guy that Ole Miss had really counted on, but we're almost halfway into the season. I don't know that he's can be a guy that you go to in meaningful innings moving forward right now, because he just has a complete inability to miss bats consistently over a long period of time. Yeah, and it's weird because you hit on it there, because in stretches he looks good with the breaking ball and the fastball and locates it, but it seems like his mistakes are really egregious mistakes, and I think a lot of that stems from, like you said, leaving the ball over the plate too often. And beyond that, like what do you think? Like, as far as this team, the way it's too early to say they struggled in conference play, but they kind of scraped by to 3-3 versus Missouri and Alabama. When you're trying to avoid some RPI pitfalls in the midweek, do you feel comfortable even throwing Fowler out there at that, or do you consider maybe tweaking it with someone else? Yeah, see, I think that's the move and the most interesting part of this moving forward, because look, we talk about this all the time. The SEC season is the one that's going to dictate what their postseason resume is going to look like, what's going to happen when postseason time gets here. But they have lost 5 non-conference games. They've already lost 5. We know that 20-6 is kind of that margin border where if you fall below that, you put yourself in some struggles from a host standpoint, unless you just go crazy hot in SEC play, or just hurt your overall resume if you're really kind of there on the bubble for getting into the tournament, frankly. So whatever it is, that 2019 barrier is a splice point. They've still got a Governor's Cup game against Mississippi State. They still have 2 games against Southern Miss. They play this Memphis team again in Oxford. They've got Arkansas State. They've got UNA. They've got a lot of games left, and a couple of them against really premium competition. I just don't know that right now you're comfortable, especially against the Southern Miss team that's surging against Mississippi State with Fowler out there. You have to think that at some point this thing gets back to Houston Roth. We talk about him all the time, and whether it's on the weekend replacing Gunnar Hoagland at some point, whether, Nikhazy's maybe not as good consistent as we think he's probably going to be, or whether it's just for midweek and some pretty key games. Mike's done a pretty good job of kind of finding that midweek guy that ends up being a weekend guy, and I think Roth's it, because he's been pretty good his last 2 times out. The velocity seems to be coming back. There doesn't seem to be pain in the shoulder. He might be the element that sort of stabilizes this thing a little bit as they move forward, because I just don't see another option right now if he can't do it.
Yeah, we talked a couple of weeks ago when you asked the super interesting question to where, whose stat line do you want if you want to kind of tell what this team has done? Like, if you have someone's stat line now, what's a good indicator? And it's Houston Roth, and I think that still holds true. So don't you think the midweek ends up either Roth, or if Hoagland struggles and Roth replaces him, Hoagland at least gives you enough in the midweek to feel a little bit more comfortable than, say, like a Jordan Fowler, right?
Yeah, and that's fascinating, because I don't know how long Mike, Hoagland had been showing a lot of signs of improvement. He was really good against Alabama. He was pretty good against UAB. He was even okay at times against Long Beach, even though offensively they were a train wreck when they came into town for that weekend. And then he was just not very good against Missouri. He's obviously going to start this weekend as they go to Arkansas. So I think he's still got a long leash. I mean, it's one of those deals where I do believe Hoagland would have to be bad probably 2 more weeks in a row before we get to that point. But in the interim, I mean, I do think it's time to kind of use Houston Roth a little more. He didn't throw tonight. He was not one of the 6 guys that did pitch. So I think he's the key. And then we might have watched another one in Tyler Myers. He's a JUCO kid that is in the middle of a transition, but you had found the stat and you had really pointed out that he's now up to 6 innings scoreless in a row. That's over 3 appearances, and he hadn't been used in 10 days. That means they went through that entire Missouri series with all the stuff going on without using him whatsoever. Frankly, I kind of forget about him when he comes back out on the mound and forget he's on the roster sometimes. And he's a guy with some swing and miss to him. He's going to throw the ball in the strike zone. He's averaging more than a strikeout per inning right now. I think he's got 14 strikeouts, 3 walks in 13 innings. So, yeah, he's a guy that if you told me they had sort of this resurgent reliever come out of the woodwork, I think it's him. So, I mean, I think right now, as crazy as this seems for where we are in the season and everything else, I think Houston Roth and Tyler Myers might be 2 keys that, if from a pitching standpoint they set it in a forward motion, it's because of them.
It is weird he hasn't pitched in 10 days, right? And if you look at his overall body of work this year, he had 2 back-to-back outings in – I don't have it in front of me right now, obviously, like where he gave up 2 runs on a couple hits and got banged up a little bit. But other than those 2 outings, he's been good every single time he's been given the ball, essentially. And, 6 innings now over his last 3 spans, a 2-hit ball. And to your point, if he is kind of that reliever that stabilizes things, doesn't that free Mike up even more to move Roth to either the Sunday slot or make him a midweek starter?
Yeah, no matter what you do, you just got to get more out of Houston Roth. I don't know where it's coming from. I don't know how you're going to use him, but this team is not going to reach anywhere near its ceiling without Houston Roth giving you meaningful innings and meaningful games and doing it fairly consistently. As we kind of look at it the other way a little bit from tonight, again, they end up giving up 15 hits. Fowler wasn't good. And the other thing is they still have not solved left-handed pitching. We've talked about it over and over again. Missouri threw 3 left-handers over the course of the weekend, and frankly, their best outing was the one that they won because, well, not frankly, but, they scored all the 5 runs on Sunday. That wasn't their best outing. Their best one was on Saturday against Sycamore because that's a more premium arm that they saw in that game. But Memphis tonight, they start a right-hander that can't throw strikes. Memphis walks a lot of batters. They were not good on the mound, but when they brought a left-hander in, it still worked. Ole Miss tonight against left-handed pitching against Memphis, 3 for 16. That's a 188 average. That's still just not getting it done whatsoever. And it's a bit of a baffling thing because, the stereotype is that Mike's teams struggle against left-handers, but that wasn't the case last year. They hit left-handers over 300 last year. They hit left-handers in a way last year with much of the same lineup, even though you are losing 2, premium right-handed bats in Golson and Fortes from that team last season. It's just a little bit of an enigma for me because even when you look at the splits last year to this year, guys aren't doing the same thing. It's a constant trend, and it's not just, it's not one of these contagious things. It's not one of these things where everybody's slumping at the same time. But I can't really figure out what it is because approach hasn't changed. It's not like they're seeing crazy left-handed arms of whatever. So I don't know the answer, but if they don't solve some of that left-hander thing, it's going to get into the scouting report. They're going to have some alterations and some rotations moving forward, and they're basically going to have to prove it because I think every time they get into bullpen situations and anytime there's a coin flip on who to pitch from a starting standpoint, they're going to see a left-handed arm.
Yeah, don't you feel like the first time it was kind of like an aha diagnosis moment was when Cooch Maynor almost no-hit him, kind of a junk balling, soft tossing lefty, and you're kind of like, all right, something may be up here, but you nailed it with the word. When you look at their left-handed versus right-handed splits, it is baffling. But the question I was going to pose is, obviously it's been pointed out a bunch now, but what do you do?
Well, there's nothing to do.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not like that's not something you just kind of like cure by changing the lineup.
I mean, you hope it's just a sample size thing, because it's the funny thing with college baseball. Again, we're rambling. It's midnight here, but with college baseball, it's 56 regular season games. That's it. It's 56 games. You get hot for what would be a normal, just little hot streak in major leagues. Suddenly, you're an All-American in college, because that makes up the majority of your stats. So, I think it's where we get into so much teeth gnashing, nail biting, where there's going to be times and segments where it has nothing to do indicative of the talent. It has nothing indicative of approach. It's just kind of baseball for a little while. And I know fans hate that, but I do think we're a couple weeks away from absolutely diagnosing it as, hey, this is a major problem. They just can't hit left-handers. There's still somewhat in that margin of error where you wait to see kind of what they do moving forward. Because, I've talked about this a lot. People are probably tired of hearing it. A lot of Mike's teams that have been really good have started out slow in SEC play. They've been 1-5, they've been 4-5, they've been 2-6, like that 2016 team. And almost half or more of Mike's teams have been either 7-8 at the break or 8-7 at the break. So this is not uncommon for them to hit this sort of skid. The problem is that you were identifying issues in all three phases for Ole Miss, and that's what they've got to fix this weekend in Fayetteville. Because I do think this is a bit of a swing thing. Because you're sitting here at 3-3. If you just lose the series, you're kind of okay, but you certainly can't get swept in Fayetteville, get to 3-6 coming home to play probably a pissed-off Florida team that's found itself a little bit, because it's got Alabama this weekend in Gainesville, so Florida's going to get healthy. They're going to win that series. They might even sweep that series. So if you found sort of a building block, it was that tonight you had a couple positives. You played really good defense. You got the top of the order back involved. The top 5 guys in the order reached base 14 times tonight in this game. So they did some pretty good things, but it's got to carry over, and frankly, it's got to carry over to defense early in the game on Friday. It's a late start. For some reason, it's an 8 o'clock start on Friday in Fayetteville, and Will Etheridge has thrown way too many pitches in the first inning because his defense has made errors behind him. They have got to get him off to a good start, or they're going to be in big trouble on Friday night.
And that's one of the things that's been lost in a little bit of their struggles is Will Etheridge has been everything as advertised. I mean, he's done a little bit of a lot, like in a couple years, and he had this entire offseason to kind of refine the secondary stuff, get prepared to this role, and he's been as good as they possibly could have asked for him. And to your point, yeah, he's thrown way too many pitches in the first inning as the defense hasn't really helped him get off the field. But, yeah, I mean, they did some good things tonight. It needs to translate to Friday because this entire weekend. But to your point, they can't get swept. They have to at least get a game up there. And 2 would really go a long way in kind of turning their fortunes.
Yeah, 2 would fix a lot of the ills as they kind of move forward. That would get through a lot. And, do you think – did tonight do enough where, because Mike frankly doesn't have a lot of options, because Elko does run into the wall there at one point in the 7th inning, Mike said he had a jam back, I think was the way he diagnosed that. I'm not sure that was a real medical definition, but nonetheless, it was a jam back for Elko. He said he should be fine, but I asked him as we were sort of walking off the field, and I detected some unknown or some indecision there, so we might not know more about that until the weekend gets here with Tim Elko, a guy that, again, sort of under the radar because of an early start. I think you figured this out earlier today. He started the season 0 for 14. He's got an OPS over 900 since that point. His batting average is around 300 since that point. But because of his situation, do you think Cockrell's probably destined for a couple starts this weekend?
I do. I think at least one. Because, I mean, what does that look like? You thinking it's at DH, or do you think he's out at one of the corner outfield spots? I mean, obviously it'd be right field with Graham or someone else DHing. I'm not sure what that looks like, but I think it's at least 1 start, maybe 2.
He's not very good defensively, so they got to kind of factor that in if they care at all. The question is going to be, what do you do with Knox LaPosser? Because he was 3 for 8 against Missouri. He had a big time hit for an RBI on Friday. He had another hit on Saturday. He was he was pretty good all weekend. So especially if you're facing left-handers this weekend, and I'm not real sure what's in Arkansas's rotation, but if you are, I think you have to consider LaPosser, even though he's not going to give you the power that Cockrell at least has the potential to give you. But right now, they just need hits. They just need productive at-bats, and that's what is kind of interesting to me is, is it going to be kind of those, what have you done for me lately? Because Mike does like the large sample size of Cockrell's career. He likes him trying to get him some at-bats to get him back. But I have a hard time, even though it's a freshman, even though there's not a lot of overall power to his game compared to a Cockrell or somebody else, I kind of have a hard time just completely moving away from LaPosser after what he did against an SEC opponent and against left-handers over the weekend.
Yeah, I would certainly agree with that. And so that does put Cockrell in right field, which, so what does that do with as far as Servideo and where he's playing?
Yeah, you got to choose Servideo or Adams at that point, and that could even become a bit of a platoon situation as we move forward. Mike's not been real scared of the platoon over the years. Servideo comes into the week hitting .071 against left-handed pitching. That's just not good at all. And Adams has done a decent job against lefties, so you might even see some situation where they go, let Servideo just hit right-handers, let Adams hit left-handers and move forward. Servideo, obviously, the better glove defensively, and frankly, he's just kind of been that spark plug. He's constantly taking some extra bases. He's making people uncomfortable on the bases when he gets there. It's just whether you believe the sample size thing's a deal, or whether you believe that he's going to snap out of that and he's going to be pretty good against lefties, because that might be one of Mike's main managerial decisions as they kind of move forward here, is how to factor in Adams, how to factor in Servideo, because I think he's just going to play the hot hand in the outfield and the DH spots. He's just going to keep rotating those guys around, and if somebody gets on a streak, he's going to let them ride it and go from there. But he does have a bit of a decision to make from Adams and Servideo, because Adams has been a little more stable, a little more consistent at times. Servideo provides you a little more upside, and I don't know really where Five will go and what he's thinking as we move forward.
And that's when we've hit it seems like, for the last 5 minutes. Now, that's kind of outside of pitching. The overarching problem with this team is that there's still so many moving parts to this lineup at this point in the year. And I agree with you about riding the hot hand in the outfield and the DH spot. But, yeah, I think the biggest decision he has to make is what to do with Servideo or Adams. Do you kind of go with the stability or the athleticism and the upside on the base pass and things like that? It's interesting because it seems like with this team, they're plugging one hole and one other hole is coming open each weekend. There's so many moving parts to this, because you think you found something on Saturday with Nikhazy, and then Hoagland kind of, regresses a little bit, I guess, after a couple of good outings. Then you got everything going on with Cockrell and everything else at the DH spot and corner outfield, and then you have the second base platoon. A lot going on with this team.
Yeah, I can give you a bunch of positives on why this thing works out. I can give you a lot of negatives on this maybe not being what it is. But with Nikhazy, with Hoagland, with Fowler today and what all he did and everything else, are you trending more one way or the other at this point with this team as they head to Fayetteville? We know what the schedule looks like. We know that we're probably emphasizing these negatives so much more because Alabama and Missouri's already out of the way. They're by far two of the least talented teams in the SEC. The schedule's going to get more complicated, but this team hasn't played its best baseball either. It's, no matter what, it's capable of more than it's currently doing. So where do you sort of trend on the buy-sell meter just for the next couple weeks as they kind of keep going?
I think all things considered, I will hesitantly trend in an upward direction because I think they found something with Nikhazy. And so even with some offensive struggles and even with Sunday kind of being a wild card with Hoagland, I think they found something in kind of a 1-2 punch there. Nikhazy's been good against good competition. He was good against East Carolina and Louisville, even though they lost both those baseball games. And then, of course, was great last weekend against Missouri in the win. So I think trending upward because, Dillard's kind of starting to get it going. Cockrell had a good night.
Gray's been better.
Yeah, and Gray Kessinger has been better. So, and there's enough in the pen to where they can win 2 games on a given weekend. So I think, given what they found with Nikhazy and obviously Etheridge being what he's been, I think I'll hesitantly go positive direction.
Yeah, Nikhazy, to me, he's had 3 really good starts in a row. Against East Carolina, he gives up all 3 runs there in 1 inning when Brickhouse hits the ball out of the ballpark. But I thought the one in Louisville, I thought that was maybe the one that told me the most about him as a freshman, because Louisville scores 2 runs before he even gets an out. And you would think, hey, a lot of guys would just get run out of the ballpark right there. That'd be it. They'd kind of lose it mentally. and everything would kind of move in a negative direction. Instead, he bears down. He doesn't give up another run until the 6th. He hangs in there. He saves Ole Miss's bullpen, and he's just, frankly, he's showing a lot of kind of moxie, a lot like JT Ginn at Mississippi State, for that matter, from a freshman, something that you don't see a lot. So, no, I think I believe in him. I think he's going to be very good. He obviously gets a huge test this week against Arkansas. He gets a huge test in front of a big crowd next week for Grove Bowl weekend against Florida when he comes back home and plays a team that at least has top 5 talent. We'll see what Florida's doing at that point. But, Ole Miss escaped one today because some other teams in the SEC didn't. You had a lot of losses in the SEC today. You even had South Carolina losing to North Carolina A&T, of all people, today. A game that is very very surprising. And, we always talk about Vanderbilt and Georgia being great things that Ole Miss missed them. Frankly, Ole Miss could use playing South Carolina. That's a program that is down. They're nowhere near the team that they were under Ray Tanner or even early on under Chad Holbrook. So that's kind of the miss in the schedule for Ole Miss in a negative way as far as who they play. But a lot of teams in the SEC get popped tonight. Ole Miss not one of them. 9-6, the Rebels over the Memphis Tigers. Ole Miss now winning their 18th game, I believe, this season. Is that right?
18-8 now.
18-8 now. Memphis falls to 10-11. Those two teams will see each other in a few weeks back in Oxford to close up their season series. Ole Miss has now won 3 straight in the series. The Rebels swept the season series in 16, swept it in 18. Memphis swept it in 17. So the trend lately is for whoever wins game 1 to go ahead and win game 2 as well. But anyway, from the car somewhere again headed toward Oxford, trying to get back before the rooster comes out, speaking of the Gamecocks, and starts crowing. Brian, I'm Chase. We'll talk to you later. Thanks to Brian last night for hanging in with me as we got that done. The podcast also brought to you by Community Mortgage, Oxford, Memphis, DeSoto County, Chattanooga. All underwriting and processing's in Memphis. Security Local Underwriting understands your market, someone in the area, also a leader in condo financing in Oxford, and the float-down option. You know by now that means you get to lock in your current rate, but if rates go down before you close, they'll just give you that lower rate. You can find Jason at 662-234-2704 or JLOWE at communitymtg.com.
Join the Ole Miss men's tennis team Thursday as they take on Arkansas at 6 p.m. for their annual crawfish extravaganza. Fans will receive free crawfish beginning at 5:45 p.m. Admission is free, so bring the family out, enjoy Ole Miss tennis, and free crawfish. The Ole Miss women's tennis team back at home on Friday at 3 p.m. as they take on Arkansas, and again on Sunday versus Missouri at 1 p.m. Admission is free. More information can be found at OleMissSports.com. The Ole Miss softball teams return home this weekend. They take on the Florida Gators with Friday's first pitch set for 6 p.m. Admission is free. For more info, visit OleMissSports.com. And join the Ole Miss track team for the Ole Miss Classic on Saturday, March the 30th. The meet set to begin at 9 a.m. Admission is free. For more information, visit OleMissSports.com. I'll have my mailbag up at some point today. At least that's the plan. It might even be Thursday. It's been one of those weeks. It's brought to you by the Westin Jackson. Restore serenity to your soul by visiting Soul Spa right there inside the Westin Jackson. It's the ultimate luxury spa experience in downtown Jackson. Indulge in personalized massages. You need one of those. Signature facials, soothing body treatments, and much more on their extensive spa list. So escape from the everyday, rejuvenate yourself in their luxury spa today, and then head over to Estelle Wine Bar and Bistro right there on the bottom floor of the Westin Jackson. Sip on a creative craft cocktail. Enjoy their curated wine list. It's open for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Chef Caden's mission is to connect guests with the community through local partnerships, so gather at Estelle tonight. And we're brought to you by John Edwards, Regency Travel Incorporated in Memphis. You guys know how this works. John's part of Virtuoso. It's a worldwide network of travel partners that allows John to supply his clients with added values, unique benefits that are simply not available to other travelers. What you do is you give him a call, you give him some parameters, give him some ideas. Here's what we want to do. Here's how long we want to go. Here's when we want to go. Here's my budget. And then stop. Sit back, relax, get off the internet, let John go to work. You don't have to live in or near Memphis to take advantage of his services, and he is going to come up with options that you will not find on your own. 901-494-3387, or send him an email, jedwards@regencytravel.net. First-time clients can save $50 off their first booked trip just by telling John you heard about Regency Travel on the podcast.
Tough midweek for a few SEC teams last night. East Tennessee State beats Tennessee 6-5 last night. The Florida Gators did beat Florida State 4-2. Florida's now won 10 straight in that series against Florida State.
Fire Mike Martin.
Fire Mike Martin. In his last year, while he's trying to retire, go ahead and run him out.
Absolutely. Send a message. Send a message that you're not going to tolerate mediocrity.
I think he is trying to kind of push his kid into that gig, and Florida State's not real thrilled about that one.
That's never a good idea.
It's not working out.
Nepotism.
Frankly, he should have been fired last year the way he mismanaged that stupid game against Mississippi State.
Yeah.
Let that kid come back in.
Yeah.
And end up losing.
Yeah. Wasn't smart.
No, it wasn't the best thing in the world. Kentucky finally won a baseball game. Congrats to them. They beat Morehead State 7-0 last night. Thank God I was not covering Missouri and UT San Antonio. 12-11 Tigers in 12 innings last night. That was.
I would have called you in about the 8th inning and said, "You're an idiot."
It probably still got done quicker than Ole Miss and Memphis last night.
Probably.
At one point, I looked up, and I felt like we'd been there hours because we had, and it was the top of the 4th.
Yeah.
Because every half inning, the bases are loaded. There's just stuff. It's just nonstop stuff. Pitching changes. Ole Miss threw six pitchers last night. Memphis had a career high in hits last night. It just went on and on and on and on and on.
It's one of the things I like about basketball. There's
a window.
They start that clock at 20 minutes, and we roll.
North Carolina A&T beating South Carolina 2-0. I mentioned this with Brian. Ole Miss could have been beneficial, maybe catching Carolina this year. It just doesn't feel like it's going overly well for the Gamecocks. My, how fortunes change.
Yeah, isn't that something?
Well, Ray Tanner not in that dugout.
No, he's not.
And they're scrambling a little bit to. Well, it wasn't nepotism, but they immediately went to Chad Holbrook, and he was good for a couple of years, but it got a little decline every year. Just step down,
nepotism-ish.
Nepotism-ish.
Yeah.
He was the proclaimed next son, and it didn't work.
He was an adopted Tanner. Kind of was.
Arkansas beat Missouri State 8-2, as Tom mentioned. The Capital City Classic was last night in Montgomery, Alabama.
Saw that.
Where the Biscuits play, one of the best logos in sports.
It looks like a cool park. I've never been in it.
I hadn't either. Alabama 6, Auburn 3 last night in the midweek. So Tide taking out the Tigers.
Fire somebody.
And then in Baton Rouge last night, Paul Maneri instigates a players-only meeting by gathering them up and just walking off. Didn't say a word to his team after the game last night. He just left them out in the outfield to stew it out for themselves. McNeese State beats LSU 2-0 last night in that one in Baton Rouge at Tiger Stadium. LSU has some issues. They are now 17-8 on the season, so actually a half game worse than even Ole Miss overall. They have I guess LSU's still one game up in the conference because they swept Kentucky. Georgia took 2 out of 3 in Athens last weekend against the Tigers. So they've lost at least 3 of 4. And
Ole Miss would have won big against Arkansas this weekend if you hadn't given away the damn weakness on the
left-handed
on
thing.
the podcast. God,
don't think Van Horn had anybody who was on that.
No, they weren't studying left and right splits.
Just rolling the ball out there and playing.
Yeah,
what are you talking about?
Man, come on.
I'm still really bothered by this 8 o'clock start thing.
I don't blame you.
Because that thing's not over to 11:30.
Oh, on a good day.
It's Friday night, though. Campbell and Etheridge could run through it a little bit. Could.
You're still riding if you were going. You'd still be riding till 1 a.m.
You would. LSU had 4 hits last night.
Oof.
Against McNeese.
It's not good. So what's interesting about the whole, we joke about it. There are a couple of weekends that are coming up for Ole Miss where you could get healthy, and as crazy as it sounds, and I acknowledge that it sounds crazy, one of them might be in Baton Rouge. Don't give me history. I don't care.
Well, at some point, it does matter.
We will debate that in a month. But
you don't think there's any relevance to the fact they haven't won a series in Baton Rouge since '82? They've won everywhere else on the planet since then.
I don't think Tyler Keenum could tell you anything about it.
Well, I get that. I understand that.
I think if I were to walk out and walk to Anthony Servideo and said, so I kind of wanted to talk to you about.
When's the last time Ole Miss won in Baton Rouge?
Yeah, I kind of wanted to talk to you about the history of the Ole Miss LSU series in Baton Rouge. I think he would look at me like I was an alien. I just don't think he would have
The answer would be so.
Well, it would be, I don't know, and I don't care. It would be the real answer. I'm sure there'd be some political answer that somebody would have given him. But his real answer would be, I don't give a damn. Not going to affect what I do Friday night.
Yeah, managerial decisions that Jake Gibbs, Don Kessinger, and Pat Harrison made over the years, not affecting the game on Friday. Obviously.
I mean, if you told me it affected 5 a little bit, you got to buy that. If you're telling me that Will Etheridge is out there thinking, oh God, okay, I can't throw this pitch because back in 1994, that's stupid. It's freaking illogical.
It's one of sports' just dumb streaks that makes no sense.
Because there is no rhyme or reason to it. It just is.
It's odd.
It is. And it can become a mental thing, like Kentucky-Florida football.
Yeah, Kentucky all up in its head during.
They get in the fourth quarter. It's like, oh God. But really, it's so stupid.
It's self-fulfilling if you allow it to be.
Yes, that's fair. But, I mean, if you're telling me that week that they get on the bus on Thursday or whenever to drive down to Baton Rouge, if you're telling me that Anthony Servideo sits down next to, I don't know, name somebody,
Thomas Dillard,
and goes, you know what, man, we haven't won down here in like 20 years.
I was going back through some box scores, and I was looking at 87.
They
had a lead in the 8th.
Did you realize I was literally in diapers the last time that we won? They don't think like that.
Well, they weren't any close to even being a gleam in the eye.
Yeah, just
82.
82. Yeah, they just
Skip Burtman wasn't even in Baton Rouge yet.
Couldn't tell you, and they don't care. So no, we'll have no.
Now that's part of the answer there. Skip Burtman won a lot of freaking home games over the years.
Well, he
beat a lot of people.
That's the overwhelming majority of the answer.
Now, is it odd Mike hasn't won there? Yes, because he doesn't get swept down there. It always comes down to this rubber game that they lose every time.
But they're usually really good at home.
Yeah. And you play them a little later in the season usually.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is if you started digging through the rest of the SEC and their series at LSU, you would find
a lot of people are going to have a lot of winning records down
You would
there.
find that, guess what? There's a lot of schools that kind of don't do particularly well in Baton Rouge. But this year it appears that perhaps they're fallible.
Yeah.
And it might be an opportunity to get well.
My point being, I bet Ole Miss has a winning record against them in Oxford during that stretch.
Because over the last 19 years, Ole Miss has been a pretty good baseball program, and they've been really good in Oxford. Yeah. I mean, I'm all for you writing the expose, but I'm just telling you.
I've already written it. I wrote about that 82 team last year.
Yeah, there's just a little Occam's razor that kicks in here.
I bet Brett Payne got back on the bus in Baton Rouge last night, real happy with himself. A freshman from Lumberton, Texas last night. 6 innings, 2 hits, no runs, 5 Ks against the Tigers.
Yeah, I bet
he
was buzzing a little.
Yeah. Hand me that ball on Friday, buds. Hey, what are we doing? Now, he might be their ace, frankly, because they got a game against LSU in the midweek.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, for a team like McNeese, they've got to win the conference tournament. That's the only way they're getting in anyway.
Yeah, he'll get the ball again on Sunday.
Yeah.
But he felt good. He feels good today. Today's a good day.
He'll jump out there on Sunday at home against Lamar or somebody and be ready to go.
He woke up this morning and the birds were chirping in Lake Charles, I'll tell you that.
He opened his phone. He wanted to get on Twitter. He wanted to check out some Baton Rouge media last night.
Life was good.
Yeah.
Yep.
What's the old advocate saying this morning about the Tigers? Apple F. Brett Payne. All right. Here we go.
Good for him.
Oh, yeah.
Good for him.
That's good. But, yeah, apparently Maneri quite pissed last night at home. I mean, they're scuffling. They tried to pitch about committee, but it wasn't the pitcher's fault. They gave up 2 runs. Hit McNeese, guys.
That's kind of like the Ole Miss thing on Friday night in Missouri. I mean,
that's not on Etheridge.
Not on Etheridge. It's not on Mike.
Yeah.
Got 2 runs.
Got to the house giving up 2 runs on a Friday night.
Got to win that game.
Yeah. No doubt. So we'll talk to Jeffrey tomorrow. We will have more podcasts as the week goes on. Again, check rebelgrove.com. Tons on the site. More coming today as the day goes on in the digital variety, the written variety, and more. So we'll have more as the week goes on. Thanks.